the challenge with companies at the time was this, and 3D graphics was particularly challenging this way. You have to build a chip first, and then you can develop the software. And after you develop the software to run the chip, you discover there's a bug in the chip. You got to spin the chip, which then you build the chip, you get back, you do the software on top of it. The iteration loop caused the development cycle times to be about 2 years. From the moment you tape out a chip to the moment you get it to the market was about 2 years. Well, we didn't have 2 years. It's not complicated to do some simple math. We had 9 months. We had 9 months of money left. And so we decided that, well, if you have 9 months and it takes 2 years, obviously you don't have 9 months. And so what if I took some of the money and I invested in a machine that makes it possible to do our software development before we taped out the chip. And so at the point of tape out, the chip had to be deemed perfect, because it's the last tape out we're going to do. Okay, so we got our team. The company was much smaller than this room here, and it was umpteen people, and we got everybody together. And I said, hey guys, look, here's the dilemma. If we did it the old-fashioned way, it would take 24 months. We have 9 months of money, so we don't have 24 months, so we're not going to be able to do it the old-fashioned way. However, here's the problem why the old-fashioned way was necessary. But suppose we bought this machine from a company that is going out of business. I had heard about this machine. It's called the ICOS emulator. To emulate your chip in this big, huge machine that looks like a refrigerator. If we gave them 3 months of our life, so now all we had was 6 months left, we could buy their machine and keep them in business for an extra 3 months. And we could prototype our chip, do all the development on top of this emulator, pretend like it's our chip, run all the QA, run all the games, run all the VGA tests, run all the Microsoft tests, so that when I tape out that chip, I know, or I believe, I hope, that it's perfect. And that chip, I will start production on day 1, sight unseen. And so they said, you know, Jensen, you've really lost it. You've got, and I still remember these conversations. It's like, you know, 9 months, that extra 3 months, we might be able to find more money. I said, we're not going to find more money. It makes no sense to find more money. I believe in you, you believe in me, but nobody's going to believe in us. There are 90 other companies to go believe in. Why believe in us? We got to do it this way. So we decided that we were going to go and buy this emulator from a company that had no other customers. We have a law in our company: startups don't invest in startups. Okay, startups don't rely on startups, and that's a law because of what I experienced. It is as a Hail Mary of you know, crazy levels. And so we bought this machine with $1 million, 1/3 of our life. We took 1/3 of our life and we bought this $1 million machine. And because it was 1/3 of our life savings, we made it work. And we brought up Riva 128. Does anybody know Riva 128? Riva 128 is the world's first graphics chip that actually exceeded people's expectations of what graphics chips can do. And there's a lot of reasons why it was so complicated, but to have done that. But anyways, Riva 128 was very important for our company and also for the industry. But ICOS delivered their machine. They stayed around long enough to help us bring it up before they went out of business. And we brought up the entire Windows stack, VGA stack, all of our drivers. We ran it at one frame every 30 seconds, minute or so. we had our QA, we had one QA engineer, Andrew Martin, he still works there at Nvidia today, and he sat in front of this emulator that ran one frame every, 30 minutes or whatever it is, and he QA'd our entire chip that way. He ran every application. He never went to sleep. And on the day that we taped out the chip, I told the guys that we shouldn't tape out the chip if we don't know that it's perfect. If it's perfect, and you think it's perfect, and we've done everything we could to make sure that it's perfect, then we should go to production right away. Now, the good news is we had no money left. Okay, so the bad news is, why would any factory start manufacturing your chips if you had no money left? And so the answer, of course, is don't tell them. And so we had we started the production of Riva 128, and sight unseen we went to production because we're out of time. We had to catch up to the competition, and the chip came back, and fortunately, it basically worked. It basically worked. There were, if any of you in the audience understand 3D graphics, there's these different blend modes about how you manipulate the frame buffer, and Microsoft in DirectX specifies 32 blend modes at the time, and we were compatible with a whopping 8 of them. Okay, and so we explained to our customers that 8 is all you need. Okay, you'd be lucky if you used 6 of them. But what we really did do is we ran out to all of the developers in the world, all the game developers, and we said, please don't use the other 24. Please. If you want to make explosions, you want to make them transparent, could you do it this way? Use that mode. Don't use the other 24. If you use the other 24, we're cooked. We are cooked. Okay? You love a lot of things about Riva 128. Okay, so it doesn't have 24 blend modes. There's a lot of things to love. Okay? I mean, this kid is not perfect, but there's a lot of things to love. Okay? And so it turns out the rest of the industry fell in love with Riva 128 just like we did. We had to love it. It was our only child. And so we ramped up the production, and then we went to town. Riva 128 became the world's first 100 megapixel fill rate texture map Z-buffered engine in the world. We made it possible for you to enjoy 640 by 480 graphics with many layers of depth complexity, completely alpha blended, with a CPU on the other side, which was just a 486, running at 100 megahertz. For us to offload enough of the setup, the triangle setup, that you could actually render 3D graphics at 30 hertz. It was the first time that had ever been achieved, and Riva 128 took off. The demand took off.